And just the irony of that, Dan, in terms of the entire makeup of the team was literally built around the preference to have Marnus Labuschagne at number 3.
There's some serious thought to be had to what Australia's batting lineup looks like.
The point I'm making is the result of this match could have a serious bearing on a lot of selection decisions for Australia.
Well, what a wild day here at Perth Stadium, the first day of the Ashes series. Ben, I do get a sense of deja vu because I remember standing, we might have been 5 or 10 metres to the left, but 17 wickets fell last year on day one of the test, and 19 today, pretty much identical circumstances, but deep trouble for Australia. And the biggest talking point, I think, is Usman Khawaja on several fronts.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a chaotic situation with Usman Khawaja unable to open the batting. And just the irony of that, Dan, in terms of the entire makeup of the team was literally built around the preference to have Marnus Labuschagne at number 3. And then, when you know it, the first innings of the series, he's opening the batting. And, look, it's obviously impossible to know the impact it had on the collapse. But you've got a situation there where a debutant, Jake Weatherald, is walking out with someone that he didn't expect to be walking out with. He's potentially facing a first ball that maybe he wouldn't have faced otherwise. And then you've got Marnus out there, when he thought he was back in his position at number 3, and perhaps most significantly, Steve Smith, really the key part of the batting lineup that they were trying to protect from the new ball, is out there in the first over.
Yeah, in up to 2 balls. I mean, funnily enough, in the end, they actually batted for about 14 overs, the two of them. So it wasn't as though they all fell to the hyper new ball, but it was just so disruptive. And then from there, things really fell away. Australia 9 down by the end of the day, 9 for 123, still a long way short of England's 172. But that's to Khawaja. We were trying to figure out what had gone on with him. The reports out of the Australian camp initially that it was stiffness. There was talks when maybe he had some stomach issues. Ultimately, we believe the official line is a back spasm that was picked up in the field. Ben, what does this mean for him tomorrow to start with? And could we see a repeat of what happened today?
Yeah, well, back spasms are serious. Well, they can be. I mean, it's not necessarily like a quick fix. So, I mean, the Australian medical staff might have a big job on their hands tonight and in the morning to get him right, to make sure that he can field. So the same problem is not repeated. But look, it was a hard one to read because initially, it was that he was a bit stiff and it didn't sound that serious. And I guess the obvious question then is has Australia stuffed up? Like, how does this happen in Test cricket where your opening batsman is not on the field to be able to do his job? But when we heard more later about the back spasm, then it's you start to think, was this a serious issue that he really did need to be treated, and really what else could Australia have done, particularly in a situation where 5 wickets were falling in 3 overs? It was crazy. But, the gesticulating from Steve Smith, who was quite aggravated once the 7th wicket fell about trying to get Usman back on the field, suggests that, perhaps there could have been something that was done.
Yeah, and he was certainly hyper aware of the fact that it would be disruptive and that they needed him. They needed their opener out there. I mean, if he doesn't feel, this is a big if he doesn't feel tomorrow, potentially he might have to bat number 7, which would be a very big disruption. The broader discussion around him and around the Australian batting lineup. I mean, the big talking point heading to this series was England. Well, there are a few, but one of the big ones was England and their array of fast bowlers, and they went in all guns blazing, all 5 quicks, and if you include Ben Stokes, who's ended up running through the bottom half of Australia's lineup, almost by stealth to a degree, given that we saw Archer and Carse star earlier. The dismissal from Khawaja was it seemed all too familiar. It was a great ball from Bryden Carse, rising, got him a bat handle, caught behind, cheap dismissal, continues a run where he has really struggled against extreme pace, quality fast bowling. We saw it with Jasper Bumrah last year. We saw it with Shamar Joseph in the Caribbean earlier this year. And I think he's on a very short leash now. I mean, really, I think heading to this series, he probably had 2 tests to just shore up his spot for the remainder of the series. And now, given how England's pace bowling has just been all over Australia, at least on day one, there's some serious thought to be had to what Australia's batting lineup looks like come the 2nd test, come the 3rd test and beyond.
Yeah, look, I mean, it'd be a big call to be dropping Usman Khawaja after 1 test. But look, I don't necessarily think that will happen. He's obviously still got another innings to go in this match, but it's not so much about his form or anything like that. It's more that if Australia go down 1-0, and as you say, if the feeling is that England's fast bowlers are just really running rampant and have Australia under the pump, it comes down more to just probably like a tactical call from Australia, where it's like, do we have to try something out of the box to combat this? You know, Mitchell Marsh, his name was floated at the start of the series for this kind of situation, I suppose. Again, we're talking prematurely. There's still another innings to go in this match. But if England's bowlers start to get on top, do we need to change it up? So there's some interesting questions to be asked. Also on the bowling front as well, Pat Cummins, who, you know, they've been saying is a chance to, well, that they're aiming for him to come back in the second test. His comments today suggested that that's still very much a maybe, depending on just how things go over the next couple of weeks. But the point I'm making is the result of this match could have a serious bearing on a lot of selection decisions for Australia.
For sure, no, yeah, there's divergent paths and probably will be. And maybe they shouldn't be, because, you know, that would be very, if you get too bogged down in the actual result of the game, you're picking your best team for the next game. But, you know, if you're 1-0 down in Ashes series, things get pretty desperate pretty quickly, albeit Australia does have the benefit of holding the trophy, so they've got, you know, a tiny bit more breathing space. I think what shouldn't be lost though today, outstanding bowling from England and from Australia and from Mitchell Starc, we haven't touched on, and deserves some dues. But some of the shots from Australia, particularly Travis Head just popping up a catch into the leg side, and Alex Carey, who's gone the ramp and has just, you know, picked out the man in the deep when they were just trying to find some runs to you know, bring the game back towards level pegging. That was an ugly dismissal, it's got to be said.
Yeah, and just, you know, look, I think, you know, in the position they were in, even when it was a lot of wickets down, but you still had Alex Carey out there, you know, it felt like Australia were a good chance to at least get to parity. And their tail is so long that once Alex Carey was out, it was basically curtains for the rest of the innings. I mean, there is still one wicket to go, by the way, but look, it was incredible, really, just how similar it was to last year, and just, you know, out of the situation that Australia were in after the bowling innings, you know, how are they not finishing day one at least in a strong position, if not a match-winning position, really? But anyway, look, obviously it's going to take a huge batting performance from Australia in the second innings. You know, no matter what score England put on the board, they're going to have to come up with something special. And
they're going to have to try to avoid a repeat of what happened with India last year, where India, by far the best innings in the match was the third innings. We remember Yashasvi Jaiswal's big century, Virat Kohli, and what proved to be his final Test century. You know, we saw signs from England here that they can do it. Even Ollie Pope made runs. Harry Brook looked very damaging before he got out. So too Jamie Smith. So it wasn't as though they were completely abject. They had their tail collapse, but they were in the game. And the big talking point probably was Scott Boland. He was, you know, that was history repeating, unfortunately for Scott. You go back to 2023, that looked awfully similar to what happened in England. So a lot of issues for the Aussies heading into day two.